Have you ever opened a bill and felt a quiet sinking sensation in your stomach, wondering if you truly had to pay it? What if I told you that the silence from the government is costing you thousands, and the letter telling you to stop paying never arrives? If you believe every pensioner deserves to keep every penny they have earned, please tap the like button right now and subscribe to this channel, because we are building a community that looks out for each other when the system stays silent. There is a strange kind of tension that lives in many homes across the United Kingdom, specifically in those households where the people have spent decades working, saving, and contributing to the society around them. It is the tension of opening the post every morning, seeing another envelope with official logo, and feeling that familiar pressure to pay it before the deadline passes. You pay it because you have always paid it. You pay it because you assume the law requires it. You pay it because nobody has ever knocked on your door to tell you otherwise. But the truth is much more complicated, and frankly, it is much more unfair than most people realize. Starting from July, there is a collection of 9 specific bills that many pensioners are legally exempt from paying, yet the vast majority continue to hand over their hard-earned cash month after month. This is not about a new law that was passed yesterday. This is about existing rules that are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to claim them. The system is designed in a way where benefits are not given automatically. They are waiting for you to ask. And if you do not ask, the money simply stays with the provider and your savings shrink a little bit more every year. We are going to walk through every single one of these 9 items today. We are not just going to list them. We are going to look at why people miss them, how much money is actually involved, and the exact steps you need to take to stop the payments. Some of these savings are small on their own, but when you add them up over a year or over several years of retirement, the total becomes significant. It is the difference between worrying about heating the home in winter or being comfortable. It is the difference between skipping a meal or enjoying a proper dinner with family. So let us begin with the very first item on the list, because it is one of the most common ways that money leaks out of a pensioner's budget without them even noticing. The first bill concerns your health, specifically the cost of medication. If you live in England and you have reached the age of 60, every single prescription you collect from a pharmacy should be free. This is a right that belongs to you, simply because of your age. There is no test to see how much money you have in the bank. There is no form to fill out weeks in advance. It is an automatic entitlement based on your date of birth. However, the charge for a single prescription item in England has risen to nearly £10. If you are managing a long-term condition, such as high blood pressure or heart issues, you might be taking 2 or 3 different medications every single month. That means you could be handing over £30 every time you visit the chemist. Over the course of a year, that is £360. Over 5 years, it is nearly £2,000. That is money that should have stayed in your pocket. The reason so many people still pay is habit. They turned 60, they went to the pharmacy, and they paid the fee because that is what they had done the year before. They never noticed the small box on the back of the prescription form where you can tick to declare your age. Once that box is ticked, the charge vanishes. But there is another layer to this that almost nobody knows. If you have been paying for prescriptions by mistake in the last 3 months, you can claim that money back. You need to ask the pharmacy for a specific form called the FP57 at the moment you pay. You cannot get this form later, so you have to ask right then. It allows you to reclaim every penny you were wrongly charged. Think about the person who has been doing this for a decade. They are not careless. They are just unaware. And the system does not remind them. It just takes the payment. Moving on to the second bill, we find another health-related cost that catches people off guard, and that is the cost of eye care. Just like prescriptions, if you are aged 60 or over in England, you are entitled to a free NHS sight test. You do not need a letter from your doctor. You do not need to prove your income. You simply walk into a high-street optician that works with the NHS and book an appointment. A private eye test can easily cost £25 or more. Most experts recommend that people your age have their eyes checked every 2 years to monitor for conditions like glaucoma or cataracts. If you have been paying for these appointments out of habit, you have been paying for something that was already covered for you. Furthermore, if you are on a low income or receiving certain benefits, you may also qualify for a voucher that helps pay for the glasses themselves. This is a saving that most people never think to ask about because they assume glasses are always a private cost. It is a small thing on its own, perhaps, but it fits into the same pattern as everything else we are discussing today. The help is there with your name on it, and the only reason you are not getting it is that no one ever told you it was yours. The silence from the industry is loud, and it is expensive. Now we need to pause for a moment because we are halfway through the list, and I want to make sure you are getting value from this information. If you are finding this useful and you know someone else who might be paying these bills unnecessarily, please share this video with them directly. Send it to your brother, your sister, or your neighbor. You might be the person who saves them hundreds of pounds this year just by pressing a button. Let us continue to the third bill, which is one that frightens people more than almost any other because the sums involved can be genuinely large, and that is the cost of dental treatment. NHS dental treatment in England is charged in bands. A simple checkup and basic work sits at just under £27. The middle band for things like fillings comes to a little over £70. But the top band for major work, such as dentures, crowns, and bridges, runs to more than £300 in one go. For a pensioner on a careful budget, that top figure is the sort of number that makes you put the visit off altogether. You might endure pain because you are frightened of the bill. But here is what you need to know. If you or your partner receive the guarantee part of pension credit, then every bit of that NHS dental treatment is completely free. All of it right up to that top band. Keep that in the back of your mind, because pension credit is going to come back at the very end of this list as the most important thing of all. This rule catches the person on a modest income who has been quietly avoiding the dentist for years, wincing through the discomfort because they are frightened of the cost, when in truth they were entitled to have it all done for nothing. Health should not be a luxury, yet for many, the cost makes it feel like one. The fourth bill lands on your doormat once a year, and a great many people over 75 are still paying it when they have no need to. The television license now costs over £174 every year. If you are 75 or over and someone in your household receives pension credit, then your television license is free. It is not merely reduced or discounted, it is completely free. And yet there are older people the length of the country, well into their 80s, still paying that bill every single year, because they either never knew the rule or assumed it could not possibly apply to them. If that is you, or if that is your mother or your father, that is money going out of the door that never needed to leave it. It is a subscription to a service you are legally exempt from funding. The process to claim this is straightforward, but it requires you to make contact. They will not cancel it for you. You have to tell them you qualify. The fifth one is the biggest single bill most households face once the mortgage is gone, and that is your council tax. There are 3 separate ways a pensioner can have this cut, and most people never claim a single one of them. The first is the single person discount. If you live on your own, you are entitled to 25% off your bill. A great number of widows and widowers are still paying the full couple's rate years after losing their partner simply because no one ever told them to ask. The second is council tax reduction. If you are on a low income, you can apply for it, and depending on your circumstances, that can take anything up to the whole bill off, right down to nothing. The third is a lesser-known rule. If someone in the home has a serious condition such as dementia and receives a qualifying benefit, they can be disregarded for council tax altogether, which in some cases wipes the bill out completely. The council will never write to offer you any of this. You have to pick up the phone and ask for it. And when you do, ask the important question, which is whether it can be backdated, because in many cases they will refund you for a good stretch of time gone by. That can mean a lump sum landing back in your account on top of the saving from here on. Let me pause on that one for a moment because I want you to picture the person who misses it most. It is very often somebody living alone, perhaps a widow who lost her husband a few years back. She gets by carefully and watches every pound through the winter. Yet she still pays a council tax bill built for 2 people in a house where only one of them now lives. That single phone call and that one question about the single person discount could hand her back hundreds of pounds a year and possibly a backdated lump sum on top. If that sounds like you or like someone you love, please do not let it slide for another year. The sixth one comes in a few times a year and quietly climbs while nobody is watching, and that is your water. Now this one takes a little explaining, so stay with me because it could be worth a great deal to the right household. If you are on a water meter, and your usage is high for a reason outside your control, there is a scheme called WaterSure that puts a firm cap on your bill. It works for people on certain benefits who either have a medical condition that means they must use a lot of water, or who have a larger household with several children still at home. Under WaterSure, no matter how much water you actually get through, your bill is capped so that you never pay a penny more than the average for your region. For a household caught in that position, that single cap can be worth hundreds of pounds across a year. And even if WaterSure is not for you, there is a second door because nearly every water company in the country now runs what they call a social tariff. That is a reduced rate for customers on a low income, and in some cases, it cuts the bill by as much as a half. Picture a widow living alone on her state pension in a house that has been on a meter since her husband had it fitted years ago. She has never once questioned the water bill because it simply arrives, and she simply pays it the way she always has. She may well be sitting inside the rules for a social tariff and have no idea it exists because her supplier has never breathed a single word of it to her. The catch is the same one you have heard from me all the way through today. Your water company will not move you onto the cheaper rate on its own. You have to contact them and ask. So make the call and say the words WaterSure and social tariff out loud. Then ask them plainly whether you qualify for either one. We are reaching a critical point in this list where the savings start to compound, and I want to ensure you are still with me because the next few items are where the real financial relief begins. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We release detailed guides like this every week to help you navigate these complex systems without getting lost in the paperwork. The seventh one is a bill that almost every home now has, and very few pensioners realize they are paying well over the odds for it. That bill is your broadband and your phone. If you receive pension credit, and in a good many cases certain other benefits too, you are entitled to something called a social tariff for your internet. In plain terms, that means broadband for around 12 to 20 pounds a month. That is in place of the 30 or 40 pounds a great many households are paying now without ever questioning it. The connection that comes down the line is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the price on the bill, and the reason so very few people are on these cheaper tariffs is that the providers make almost no effort at all to tell their existing customers that they exist. Let me give you a picture of how this plays out in a real home. A couple in their 70s signed up for their broadband years ago, back when their grandchildren wanted to visit and use it. They have paid the same company ever since, watching the monthly figure creep up a little at every renewal. It has never once occurred to them to ask whether there is a cheaper rate because they never connected being on pension credit with the internet at all. That couple could very likely halve their bill with a single phone call. So ring your provider and say the word social tariff. Then ask them directly whether you qualify. The worst they can say is no, and the best they can say could save you hundreds of pounds a year. The eighth one puts you back in charge of getting about without paying for the privilege, and that is your travel. The older person's bus pass gives you free off-peak bus travel, and in England you become eligible the moment you reach state pension age. In Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, you can apply from the age of 60, and in London the 60-plus Oyster card opens up free travel across the buses and the underground, and a good deal more from 60 as well. Now this pass is not handed to you automatically when you reach the right age. You have to apply for it either through your local council or through the government's own website. And if you reached that age a while ago and simply never got round to sorting it out, then every single bus fare you have paid since then was money you never needed to part with. Think of how often that adds up for somebody who takes the bus into town twice a week for their shopping and their appointments year in and year out. Over time, it runs into real money, all of it for journeys you were entitled to make for nothing. And if you travel by train now and then, there is a Senior Railcard that costs just £35 for the year and takes a third off most fares, which pays for itself in only a couple of return journeys. For anyone who visits family at the other end of the country, that one card alone can save you a small fortune across a year. Freedom of movement is essential for mental health and social connection, and paying for it when you don't have to is a burden that can be lifted easily. And now, the ninth one. If you take only one single thing away from everything I have said today, please let it be this one, because it is worth more than all the others on this list put together. The ninth one is pension credit itself. On its own, pension credit tops up the weekly income of any pensioner who falls below a certain line, bringing a single person up to around £227 a week, and rather more than that for a couple. But the direct payment is not even the main prize here. The real power of pension credit is everything it unlocks the moment you are on it, even by a single pound, which is why I keep calling it the gateway benefit. Once you have it, your NHS dental treatment becomes free, just as I described earlier. Your television license becomes free once you reach 75. Your council tax can be reduced by up to the whole amount. You become entitled to the warm home discount off your energy and to cold weather payments through the hard months, along with help toward a whole range of other costs besides. The government's own figures put the average value of everything attached to pension credit at around £3,900 a year, and that sits on top of the payment itself. And here is the part that ought to make everybody stop and listen. Around 800,000 pensioners in this country are entitled to pension credit right now and are simply not claiming it. Let me tell you why so many of them miss it, because I hear the same thing again and again. Somebody checked it once some years back and was told they were a few pounds over the line, so they never went back to it again. And I understand that completely, because being turned away once is enough to put anyone off for good. But the rules do not stand still. The thresholds move and they widen over time. So a household that was turned down 3 or 4 years ago can very easily qualify today without a single thing in their own life having changed. So please do not treat one old answer as though it were carved in stone. Do not guess and do not talk yourself out of it. Use the free pension credit calculator on the government's own website, or pick up the phone to Age UK or to Citizens Advice, where patient people will sit and work it all out with you for nothing, with no pressure and no judgment of any kind. And think for a moment about what really happens when that one door opens, because this is the part people always underestimate. It is never only the payment itself. The instant even a small amount of pension credit is in place, everything else I have talked about today begins to line up behind it, one entitlement after another. That is why I keep calling it the gateway benefit, because a single successful claim does not open one door, it opens a whole corridor of them at once. So a person who was sure they earned far too much to bother, and who was in truth only a little over the line, may be walking straight past several £1,000s a year. It cost you nothing at all to find out, and the difference, should you now qualify, can change the shape of your whole year. Before we close, I must give you a word of warning, because it matters, and I would not be doing my job properly if I left it out. The moment anything to do with pension or money is in the news, and refunds and free help certainly are in the news right now, the criminals come out in force. So let me be completely clear with you. Nobody official will ever text you, email you, or telephone you out of the blue asking for your bank details so that they can pay you a refund, or so that they can help you claim your pension credit. That is simply not how any of this works. The real savings on this list come from you making the call, from ticking the box, or filling in the proper form. They never come from someone who contacts you first. So if a message arrives telling you to click a link or hand over your details to claim what you are owed, do not touch it, because it is a thief trying to rob you of the very money we have spent this whole video getting back into your pocket. When you are in any doubt at all, put the phone down and ring the organization yourself on a number you have looked up rather than one that was handed to you in a message. Real help never chases you, and it never rushes you. That brings me to the one thing I most want you to hear today, because it runs underneath every item on this list. Roughly 1 in 3 pensioners in this country do not claim everything they are owed. Not because they are not entitled to it, but simply because nobody ever told them it was there. For some, it is a quiet assumption that they must earn too much to qualify. And for others, it is a little bit of pride that gets in the way of putting a hand up. So let me say this as plainly and as gently as I can. There is no shame whatsoever in claiming any of this. You paid into this system through every working year of your life. This is not a handout, and it is not charity. It is your own money making its way back to you at last. And the only people who gain when you stay silent are the ones holding on to it. So let me draw the whole list together simply so that you know exactly where you stand. The first is free NHS prescriptions from the age of 60 in England. So tick that box and claim back the last 3 months with an FP57. The second is free NHS site tests from 60. So stop paying at the optician. The third is free NHS dental treatment on pension credit. The fourth is a free television license from 75 for those on pension credit. The fifth is a lower council tax through the single person discount or a low income reduction, and it can often be backdated. The sixth is a capped or reduced water bill through WaterSure or a social tariff. The seventh is cheaper broadband and phone through a social tariff, often half of what you pay now. The eighth is free bus travel and a third off the trains. And the ninth is the gateway benefit of them all, pension credit, which unlocks an average of around £3,900 a year in everything attached to it. Every single one of these is money you are entitled to keep, and not one penny of it does you the slightest good while it sits unclaimed in a system that is in no hurry at all to remind you it is there. Go through this list slowly and take the ones that apply to you, then make your calls this week while it is all still fresh in your mind. Do not wait for next month. Do not wait for next year. The money is waiting for you right now. If this was useful, send it to someone who needs to see it. Hit subscribe and stick around. There is more coming your way. I will see you in the next video.